Hello, I'm Tammy Carroll, and I'm going to talk about training for difference today as part of my Instructional Systems Design class through Clemson University. The college where I work has been teaching a difficult conversations course for the last 3 years in the traditional classroom in a face-to-face environment. The school administration wants to move the class platform to be taught completely to an online class that's more accessible to current students and to hopefully attract more students from outside the local area. The new course is scheduled to be available during the next semester, which is 4 months away. Given the current social justice climate, the administration wants me to review the existing material and make appropriate updates by updating the current course content with more culturally relevant and socially conscious content. I plan to stay within the confines of the Addie model, making adjustments where necessary. The Addie instructional design process is widely used to develop training programs, and it emphasizes the learner rather than the teacher. So I've created a chart that gives us a roadmap of this process. We start with our case study and some of the considerations that we need to make. Here are some of the questions we'll ask ourselves before beginning the design and development of the training. For example, what changes have taken place over the last 3 years to cause a need to adjust the training? And what barriers might exist that could cause participant apprehension to training? Who is our target market for training today? And what is our timeline to develop this training? How can I make the training more culturally relevant? When we get to the analysis phase, we begin to ask more questions to determine if training is necessary and at what level does it need to take place. How did past participants react to the training? What made them uncomfortable? What did they like or enjoy? Who are my future participants and what do they want to gain from the training? What reservations do they have? And survey questions will be written to cause participants to have to put themselves in other people's shoes. The design phase is phase 2, and this is where we'll focus on including activities that show participants how they're alike rather than pointing out their differences. Next is the development phase, and it will still be important to consider how we can get the participants to identify various ways to achieve the same purpose. In our implementation phase, we'll select different instructional methods to make sure that every type of learner has an opportunity to be taught in a way that resonates with them. The focus will be on teamwork. Then in our final evaluation phase, we'll conduct a formative evaluation using the first 2 levels of Kirkpatrick's model, which will gather information on participants' reactions and learning from the training. This survey will be conducted immediately upon the end of training. Then we'll move to our summative evaluation, which utilizes the 3rd and 4th levels of Kirkpatrick's model, which will determine if the training resulted in changes in behavior and positive results for the organization. These surveys will be conducted 3 and 6 months after training. Now let's move into the needs analysis phase in greater detail. We know that the changes in our social justice climate has brought about the need for change within our organization, and we only have 4 months to make updates. During this analysis phase, we'll make no assumptions about the changes that are needed, but we'll perform an analysis of the targeted learners to be certain that the training is handled appropriately. The first stage of Bennett's stages of diversity and intercultural sensitivity is denial. So to avoid isolation and separation of any people groups, the training will be inclusive. A survey of past training participants will be performed with participants to find out what, if anything, made them feel uncomfortable in participating. Were there any sections of the training that they couldn't relate to or that made them feel disassociated with the other participants? This can be threatening because it challenges learners to evaluate their own views. In the design phase, we know that we have employees from different cultures, So activities will be used to help participants recognize how they're alike rather than how they're different. Stage 2 of Bennett's recognizes that some people feel superior and others inferior, so the training will be designed to break down barriers and find commonalities with other participants in order to minimize cultural differences, which is Stage 3. Now this leads us to Stage 4, where participants become more comfortable accepting their differences and even relishing in the fact that they each have something to learn from one another. During the development phase, we determine the necessary tools to be used, the various adult learning methods, the training materials, and the media that will be used to conduct the training. The development phase also will incorporate participants working together and moving into Stage 5 of Bennett's stages to help them become more curious about other people and cultures in the class. We want the participants to be open to asking questions so that they can learn how others might perform the same activity or how others view an idea that is being discussed. The goal is that the participants begin to put themselves in other people's shoes so that they can get a different perspective. When we open ourselves up to different perspectives, we see cultural integration, which leads us to the last stages of Bennett's stages. This is where the participants will be able to use different frameworks for the training situations to learn solutions or better ways to handle certain situations. We need to be sensitive to how each participant will view each element of training so that we're exercising cultural sensitivity, and this will require research in the development of the training for each culture represented. Something that's very common in one culture might be a very sensitive topic in another, much like the way we might feel comfortable talking about some topics with our friends, but not with our parents. The implementation phase is important so that we include not only methods for different types of learners, but also for different segments of the population who are being trained. Here we introduce the trainer, we give a description of the training and the agenda so that we can get started. All participants will be expected to cooperate and to interact with each other. And when there are multiple solutions, we will incorporate activities to reveal all of the solutions and discuss where each might be applicable. We will incorporate all of the pre-work into the training. And also we need to keep in mind that we want to evaluate what we want to evaluate after the training. The evaluation is actually considered from the analysis phase and continues to be considered throughout the implementation phase. At the end of the training, we will conduct the formative evaluation described earlier in my presentation, as well as the summative evaluation, which is 3 to 6 months later. During the evaluation phase, we consider the costs and benefits of the training so that we can calculate the organization's return on their investment. When we can show a positive ROI, the company should be willing to continue the training. The summative evaluation should be ongoing to determine if changes in the training should be made. We also recommend that for lasting change, the company needs to change any internal language that refers to us or them and use the we terminology. And lastly, when there's a problem that needs to be solved within the operations, we recommend group brainstorming sessions to encourage ongoing teamwork. I've included in the last slide all of the citations for my presentation, and I just want to thank you for listening to my Training for Difference presentation. Thank you very much.